Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisdom Magician Podcast. This is Alex Sacken. In today's episode, I'm going to share a few thoughts on the topic of the Charlie Kirk assassination. And I've been wanting to do an episode about this since it happened. I wasn't quite done formulating my thoughts on it. I feel like I have a more fine-tuned theory right now. I'm not saying it's the right one, but I have a now kind of direction I'm leaning in. I wanted to share that. And I also want to share some clips from a recent Alex Jones interview that actually happened today on the 24th that was with a former Green Beret that goes by the name of Valhalla VFT, and he's been analyzing the assassination event from a lot of different angles in terms of the ballistics and picking apart the story. A lot of people have done good work picking apart the story. I've been following a number of different sources. I'm sure many of you have as well. I'm not going to go into all the conventional analysis because I think it's pretty obvious that the official narrative is not correct. It doesn't make sense on a number of different domains. It's not just one part of it doesn't make sense. Like almost every part of it has a problem associated with it, a very serious one. And there's also a lot of suspect activity that's around it, like the university paving over the whole area where the incident happened almost immediately after, thus making any further investigation of the crime scene impossible. And then obviously there's been no autopsy, which is, I think, the key thing, because the only thing that we've had about an autopsy, the only reference to it is from a secondhand source from Turning Points, and the explanation he gives is just simply, it just becomes another one of these things that's not believable, it doesn't add up in terms of the explanation about what the operating surgeon saw as far as the wound and finding the bullet and this sort of magic bone theory, as people are calling it. That fact lumps into a whole bunch of things that all collectively don't make sense. So all this stuff is pointing towards a conspiracy. And I'm wondering if, when we look at the purpose of the assassination and the purpose of the cover-up and all that stuff, you almost wonder if the part of the purpose was to seed these different aspects of confusion about it, to not only mask an assassination and pose it on someone else, but also the purpose of the assassination was not necessarily single-minded or single-focused, but rather had a variety of dimensions that it's meant to activate. And we can see how the effect of this assassination is actually activating a number of different key parties and players. So I'll get some more into that as we go forward, but I want to start with a clip that's actually from the end of this interview. You can watch the whole interview on Alex Jones' website. I recommend it. It's a good single source interview that talks about all these different angles with the problems with the conventional narrative about the shooting. So we don't need to go into all that, but this interview does offer a concise summary of that. But what I want to do is go right to the end where the Green Beret guy, offers his own theory about what may have happened, and then I'm going to offer my take on it and my additional ideas and theories about what potentially could have happened. So let's begin by hearing from this guy, Valhalla VFT. That's the name of his YouTube channel. So you can find him if you just search that.
If I'd like get my tinfoil hat on a little bit here and conjecture what really happened here, if I had to guess, and I'm going to say this is assuming this actually makes everything work. It makes the FBI story work. It makes the surgeon report work. It makes all these work. Okay, so let's take the assumption that this kid actually did stash a 30-06 Mauser in the woods that the FBI found. We see the ballistics. The surgeon report is true. What I see, and we know that entities do this, is they get ingrained in these Discord chats, Reddits, they radicalize these kids. And so what I would think, if I were to set this up and I'm going to action this target and I want to get away from it myself as the shooter, here's what I do. We get this kid to go plant the rifle for me. Okay, you're going to plant the rifle in the bushes here at X location. That way the shooter, me, can come and grab the rifle. What I need you to do is go to the roof, and I need you to spot for me. Let me know. Text me if anybody sees me coming to grab the rifle and go up to the roof. I get the kid up on the roof. I'm actually staged in, let's say, an offset area and behind a window back right there, ready to take a shot. That kid's on the roof. I take the shot. I take out Kirk. That kid panics, goes, what the hell is going on? You see him take off the roof. How's that work? That kid's DNA is on the 30-06. That 30-06 is in the woods. The FBI does find it. Attaches everything together. Now you have your fall guy. Now you have your patsy. The real shooter walks away. Also, I shot him in the neck with a lower caliber round. That guy did actually get stuck in the neck because it's a different shooter. Okay, so again, this is tinfoil hat, guys, to the viewers, right? This is just me speculating. If I had to try to, from the information we have, make it all actually work, that would be my full tinfoil hat theory on that. Well, the one thing I do know is this 30-06 Man of Steel story, it doesn't work. Like, no matter how you want to wrap your head around it. So then we have to figure out, okay, well, are we dealing with incompetence? Are we dealing with lying? What I'll say is this. If my biggest thing now is like, where's the autopsy report? If I were to be able to walk up to Charlie and look at him myself, I'd be able to, and see the bullet, I would be able, with the information we have, I'd be able to pretty much solve not who did it, but how it was done pretty much immediately. And so why we're not getting that, I don't know. It's very confusing because from the limited footage we have, I can't conclusively say he was shot from the front, he was shot from the back.
Well, you just said that's the elephant in the room. And I've been trying to find out. They say, oh, we'll get the autopsy, and I can't find the medical examiner ordering it. I can't find anywhere if there was an autopsy. We see a day later, he's already flown to Arizona. J.D. Vance takes him there. We see the wife, Erica, in an open casket petting his hand. That
Which
usually, they don't usually
he's...
do a coroner examination the next day. I think there probably wasn't an autopsy. And under law,
I don't think there was either.
Under law, check Utah, but I think it's in all 50 states. That's illegal to not do an autopsy in a murder like this. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, to your point, it's an open casket, which means he's already been embalmed, which means he got embalmed pretty much immediately for him to travel like that. And that is something they want to do, right? They want to embalm, someone as fast as possible if they can. But in something high profile as this, from what I'm hearing, and again, I have no idea if this is true or not, you would know more than me, Alex, is that there was no autopsy done and that they potentially immediately embalmed him and moved him.
I've made calls and I'm told, oh, we don't know. Let us check, which I think is bull. And that's why I'm starting to get really upset here.
I'll tell you this. If you gave me the TPU footage from that high fidelity camera, right? Not the iPhone footage, but the camera that nobody seems to, other than Candace Owens, I guess, has seen it. The footage from this high fidelity camera that they use to stream on their own website. You give me that footage and you give me the real autopsy report. You let me actually see what happened. I can tell you exactly what he was shot with, from what direction, what round was used immediately. But those things are the two things that, of everything the FBI has shoved, and this is where it's confusing, Alex, the FBI has constantly just ahead of themselves throwing out information on Twitter. We got the guy. We don't got the guy. We got the guy. We don't got the guy. Here's the gun. Well, maybe that's not the gun. We figured it out. Oh, well, maybe we didn't figure it out. So the FBI is giving us all the information possible as fast as possible, but not the two things that we need to just solve the case. It's very odd to me.
All right, I want to stop here and offer a couple thoughts. If you go into the main interview, they showed a lot of different angles of the shooting, including one I hadn't even seen before. And when you look at these different angles and you analyze them and you consider the ballistics tests, the most convincing explanation on that front looks like he was possibly shot from behind, most likely from a ledge. And one of the videos I saw that came out either today or yesterday showed the possibility of this plant looking thing in one of the videos. It's kind of blurry, but maybe there's a possibility somebody was disguised behind that. That actually looked plausible. So it's possible that Kirk got hit from the back, if that explanation is true, from somebody else in an elevated position. But if that were to be true, this is the part that doesn't make sense, is that from the video evidence, it's not entirely clear that there is an entrance wound on the back and that what we're seeing here is an exit wound. In other words, it's controversial about, is there an exit wound? Is the one that everybody can see in the guy's jugular that's gushing blood, is that the exit wound or is that the entrance wound? And that's what even expert marksmen can't agree on. And part of the disagreement is that it's very inconclusive from the available evidence of whether he got shot from the back. Now, the autopsy report, it's unclear if they even did an autopsy. Now, my theory with that kind of ties into what I consider might be an alternate explanation here, which is that the situation was set up such that the patsy was put in place, and then this first level of possible shooter was in the perch. but the actual kill shot came from something that people aren't expecting. Perhaps it was an unconventional weapon, perhaps it was something mechanical, something that was targeted directly to hit him in that certain way that it did. Because so much of the controversy of this event has to do with the way the bullet struck him. And this is the other part. Was it even a bullet? Do we even believe the secondhand account saying the bullet was just lodged in the neck? Here's what I'm thinking. Perhaps the FBI and the local police are themselves in a state of confusion about the ultimate kill shot, and perhaps lied about the finding of a bullet in his throat. There is no official autopsy report. We just have this secondhand account coming from not a coroner's report, but a operating surgeon who claims to have found the bullet neatly in his neck. None of this has been produced, so it's all this secondhand source that we have this information. Perhaps there wasn't a bullet found on him. There hasn't been a bullet exit wound found, or a bullet lodged in the ground anywhere. Perhaps they never recovered a bullet, and that's part of the crisis. Perhaps the kill shot didn't come from a sniper. It came from some kind of mechanical device, or maybe the way that he's reacting to being hit, this like very strong shudder, which maybe looks like a strong bullet impacted him, and the way his body and his shirt kind of moves. But none of the other aspects of the bullet thing makes sense. So maybe it wasn't a bullet that gave him that shock. Maybe it was some kind of direct energy weapon, some kind of unconventional device. And that explains all the unconventional things that we can't explain about the shooting. And it might also explain, if that was the case, why the FBI or the local police, upon receiving the body, found these anomalous aspects of it and realized they're dealing with something deeper here than just an assassination. So then they have no choice but to go along with this cover-up that's already been set up for them to discover. If this is the case, if it is this unconventional thing that was set up to cause this confusion, with the left and right inflamed against each other, doubling down on their opposition of each other, and basically exasperating the mental stress and strain that's taking place within the country right now, and exasperating the volatilities. I think the case may be that was the objective of it. It wasn't just to benefit one party like Israel. I think the more likely explanation is that it's not a group that you can see and point and name. Instead, it would be just some amorphous entity within the deep state that we can't see, but is sort of a chaos agent, or acts in some capacities like a Spectre from the James Bond film, or the Syndicate and the Mission Impossible series. In other words, loosely related to intelligence, but has its own agenda and is operating somewhat autonomously, but has a vested interest for some reason or another in the exasperation of the global system, bringing it towards a crisis point. And there is, at this point in time, the activation of a number of radical groups who are in power, who seem to be possessed by an archetype to bring about an Armageddon or to bring about an apocalypse. So could somebody with that kind of motivation be involved with the plots and conspiracies of the day, along with other power structures, but navigating that world and doing events like this to accomplish certain strategic ends, one of which may be, civil war? I can't help but think, if it wasn't ultimately caused by whoever is bringing in the migrant crisis within the entire Western world, because the purpose of that could only be a similar outcome of chaos, unrest, as these larger transformations in global governance and technocracy and energy revolutions and stuff are coming into place. That's my thinking. I'm going to play another clip coming up, but that's where I'm at with it. Of course, these are topics that interface a lot with my book, The Coming World Nation, because I talk about this idea of the collective shadow and the idea of we're reaching a power point and the collective shadow is being activated, and it manifests in the form of these type of events and the empowerment of these type of figures. So it's like this represents surfacing of the collective shadow, or the dweller on the threshold. I've analyzed it under that concept before. This has to do with initiation, but it's like a foe that is a projection of your own failures and weaknesses. So to defeat the foe, you have to go within and figure out where your own complexes are, and then when you fix those, then you defeat the enemy. So potentially we're seeing a manifestation of that kind of concept, not only here, but throughout all these numerous crises that we're facing, because these are all taking place within mankind. There's lots more I could say about that, but I think I've said enough for now. Let's hear another clip from this interview, and then we'll wrap things up.
who could benefit? And man, there's 5-6 entities, right? And so the first one, when you talk about Charlie Kirk with the left or Soros, some Soros-backed hit, if you think about why is that big? Well, Charlie Kirk, and I'm sure you know the statistics, I believe in 2023, Gen Z males were polling plus 18 Democrat, and in 2025, they're now polling plus 22 Republican. That's a 44-point shift. And Democrats can't win an election without the young vote. It's just never going to happen. And who's responsible for that huge shift? Well, Charlie Kirk probably has the most to deal with it. So you got the incentives there. You have obviously all the Israel stuff with all that weird shit going on about, that you guys, I'm sure, have covered that. You have it's very odd. Why did the Senate vote to block the Epstein files 1 hour after he was pronounced dead? All those things are weird. You get into foreign countries, right? If you're China, Russia, Iran, that if you want to ignite some type of division and civil war within the United States to bring it down within, that's another option. You have our own government, right? As you just mentioned, there's so many entities that benefit from this that I don't know where to start. I would just be speculating. But for what I think people shouldn't do, and I see some people doing this, be like, oh, well, it was 100% this. We know it was this leftist kid with his furry boyfriend, or we know it was Israel, or we know it was X, we know it was I. I don't think we have any information to really show us one way or another yet.
That was a nice, concise layout of several different possible culprits. But what he doesn't mention is what I was just talking about, which is the idea that there's perhaps not a single-minded entity within the deep state that wants one clear objective that we can point to and say, well, Israel wants this, therefore it did it. The Republicans maybe feared Charlie Kirk and want to replace him with a different leadership structure or vision for TPUSA. Perhaps the Democrats, perhaps the leftists, anarchist types. There's lots of potential culprits, but I think that's part of the camouflage, the tapestry that was set up. Not only to sow confusion, perhaps the confusion itself was the purpose. And that there's something akin to like a type of social engineering happening, and this is like a ritual sacrifice to facilitate that. In my book, The Coming World Nation, I talk a lot about why this type of behavior, why these type of entities have been given an umbrella to exist. And my feeling is that they exist in the shadows of this larger technological scientific organization, which has kept itself secret, not only from us, but from these deep state actors. We know that within the human mind, individually, that is an environment in which neurotic complexes, fixations, and shadow complexes arise. So collectively, we must assume the same is true, that in an environment where the collective governance structure is completely compartmentalized and ruled by secrecy and tiered off according to different levels of hierarchy, that this will result in neurotic behaviors erupting, because in order to preserve secrecy and compartmentalization, the feedback loops and the rule of law and the regulations that human systems need to function properly, those have to be dismantled. And that environment where there's a lack of regulation, a lack of light, archetypally, the lack of light coming in the darkness, all these things fester. And so this is a manifestation of that darkness. These kind of events anticipate this larger eruption of the shadow in anticipation of this even greater initiation that we're entering into. So that's the best I can do for now, offering my interpretation of this tragic event. And stay tuned. I have a really interesting episode that I have all lined up and I'll be putting out soon that is going to be analyzing in-depth interview that Adam Trombley did about 15 years ago. Adam Trombley is a scientist following in the veins of Tesla, and his life story that he tells in this interview, I'm going to interpret it in a certain way that's kind of different than the way he interprets his own life, but I'm going to interpret it in a way that I think he's revealing the structure that I'm talking about regarding the technocratic superstate. So we'll be getting into that. I also have a couple other exciting new announcements that'll be coming up soon, so I don't want to ruin those, but keep an eye out on the channel. I have been hard at work doing stuff, but I haven't been posting a lot, but I have some stuff coming through the pipeline that'll be interesting. So I'll see you guys soon. Thank you, and God bless.